through southern France all the way into Italy, and it's the same series of tunnels. They're all connected. It's the
Wow.
same ant colony.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. Ants travel like.
Yeah, but I mean, to organize that, they have their little regional queens and all that. So it's just amazing. I wanted to talk about AI because it's kind of like on everybody's mind right now. We're going to spend maybe the next classes, maybe 3 or 4 classes.
Cool.
So AI wasn't formally founded until 1956 at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. And that's the first time someone used the terminology artificial intelligence. And it was an MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology cognitive scientist, a guy named Mark Lewinsky, and there was a group of others. And they were at the conference, and they were really, really optimistic about AI's future. And he said within a generation, now this is 1956, so a generation of what, around 40 years. The problem of creating artificial intelligence will largely or substantially be solved. He was quoted by saying, he was quoted in a book called AI, The Tumultuous Search for Artificial Intelligence, about super intelligent machines. Yeah.
Wait, so okay, so it says it was not founded in 1956, right?
It wasn't formally founded until 19, formally. But there were people talking about it.
Yeah, because remember we saw that movie that was from
1926.
I was so
Right. So it suggested artificial intelligence because there's an android, there's a robot that's intelligent, right? So the movie Metropolis
yeah.
was a silent movie made in 1926, and there's a robot in there.
So probably before that they
Yes.
even
And
thought
before
about it.
that, in 1921, there was the word robot is a derivative of a Czech term. And the guy in 1921 developed this concept around machines that would be enslaved to do work. And they were humanoid, so those were robots. And so the idea of robots and a robot that has intelligence to a certain extent, like out of the movie Metropolis, like 26. So we've been thinking about this, but from an academic point of view, to actually give it a title and then start writing papers and thinking about the technology, how we can make that technology actually work, not just as an imaginative enterprise, but an operational enterprise. How can we bring this technology combined? And believe me, there's always been a thought to combine advanced robotics with artificial intelligence. Most artificial intelligence that we have that we've been using is confined to computers.
I would also say science too.
Right? We haven't really put it in robotics. But we're gonna do this kind of thing. I'm not gonna tell you what it is. We're gonna do kind of a neat thing, looking at how people imagine this over time. And a lot of it has been in popular culture, movies, TV shows, right? That's how for a long time I didn't give enough credence to how important media is to shaping our thinking. But years and years ago, when I was working at the Passport Office, I met Michelle Nichols. I get it right. But she played Uhura on the original Star Trek episode. The African American, she was the communications officer, right? And this was 1963 through 67 when that show was on television. Yeah, I think it was, or 65 or something. It was only on 65, 66, and 67. And she said, when the producer of the show, who wrote some of the episodes, was casting, trying to figure it out, and he casted somebody, a Japanese American, Sulu, and a Russian guy, Chekhov, to be officers on the spaceship. At the time, we just defeated, in the 60s, we just defeated Japan in World War II, and we were having the Cold War with the Russians, with the Soviets. And then to have an African woman, an African American woman, play an officer during the Civil Rights era. But he said he did it because he wanted people to think about where we could be if we could get past nationalism and racism.
Yeah.
Right? So he's saying in the future, because Star Trek, the original series, is set 200 years in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the future, no one will care about race or nationalism because we'll be a united Earth and we'll be exploring the universe, and our enemies will be like the Klingons and the Rom. You know what I mean? So Earth will be united, and there'll be other Earth-like planets called the Federation, where you have Vulcans and all that. So he wanted people, he was very deliberative about this. He wanted people to think about the possibilities of the future. And there's the ship itself, the Enterprise, has this big computer, right? But it's not completely artificial intelligence. I mean, it was a data aggregation system, right? But it wasn't, the ship wasn't an intelligent machine, right? Not yet. But anyway, the idea is that popular culture, movies, television shows, can give us the opportunity to think about where we want technology to go and kind of do a thought experiment. Right? And so we're going to go through, I've got a class that we're going to go through a bunch of this stuff. We're going to talk a lot about popular culture. So, did any of you, how many of you saw that movie, Metropolis? You did, right, yeah. So I was thinking, maybe we bring it back, I don't know, show it again. It's a long movie, it's almost 3 hours long. It's long, and it's silent. So some people don't have the attention span, but I've watched it like maybe
100 times.
And every time I watch it, I see things, new things, right? It was considered the most technologically advanced movie of its time. So anyway, so when we talk about AI, there's a lot of different definitions, but I'll use this one. So there's Organization for Education and Cultural Development, OECD, in the United Nations. This is their definition. Machine-based AI system is a machine-based system that is capable of influencing the environment by producing an output, predictions, recommendations, or decisions. For a given set of objectives, it uses machine and or human-based data and inputs to perceive real and or virtual environments, abstract these perceptions into models through analysis of them, in an automated manner, machine learning or manually, use model inference to formulate options for outcome. So AI systems are designed to operate with varying degrees of autonomy. That's kind of a more, how should I say, complex. Some people say, listen, let's make this simple. AI is machine processes that mimic human cognition, human reason. They mimic human reason, right? AI is just a machine mimicking human reason. And also human-like decisions based on data. Yeah.
So are we far off from like AI taking over human?
Oh, the big question. Is it going to eat our lunch? Well, there's a lot of talk about this, and we'll do a whole class on the potentiality of AI. Where does this go? What does that mean for us? Should we be afraid? Should we go running, screaming down the street? Because, we all think of movies like Terminator, Skynet, but there's real fear there. So a lot of what those movies do, don't you want to be? Tomorrow. All right, no. So there's a lot of real concern about what they call super intelligence. What if we create an intelligence greater than our own ability, cognitive ability? And people are very comfortable with the prospect of that happening.
Which technically already happened.
Well, it depends. I mean,
It already
you know,
happened.
so we'll talk about, that's a segue first. Let's do the segue thing, right? So I'm not convinced, but we'll talk. So
I'm on a fight.
You have 4 different types of AI. There's some people say more, but this is a model really for us. Right? One is what they call reactive. Popular example of a reactive AI machine was IBM's Deep Blue, a machine that beat chess grandmaster Gary Kasparov in 1967. He won the first game, and then he lost the rest. And he now looks back on it, and he said the reason he lost it, he played it like he would play a human.
Yeah.
He tried to set traps that a human would fall into because humans can be goaded into doing things, right? But you can't goad a machine. A machine has no emotional response. So he realized he, in a way, shouldn't have played it. Then, to be fair to Gary, because I'm a fan, I said, Gary, too hard on yourself. You didn't just beat a machine. Of about 90 engineers and chess masters who helped program it and play over to build its skills. So another way to look at it is someone calculated out the amount of that Gary Kasparov expended when he played it. The amount of energy a human brain takes to play at that level versus the megawatts to run the supercomputer and all the brain power of all the people and trained it. And said, Gary, you did pretty good, really. The brain is still very, very efficient in using energy to create and to solve problems because these supercomputers that run AI algorithms, they use a lot of power. A lot more power than the human brain does. So if we're in a situation where power conservation is kind of important, then I wouldn't count humans out 100% just yet. Right? If energy is not an issue, if we have unlimited energy and some of the people working on fusion reactors say we may be there in 20 years, I don't believe it, but it's, some people are saying, oh, we're going to have cheap energy fusion reactors. And I was like, well, okay, I believe it when I see it. I'm old enough to see, to have been through these various times when scientists and technologists say they've got the solution to everything and it doesn't pan out. Yeah.
But yeah, they do actually have this type of energy source that is able, to power this whole neighborhood right here, but they can't give it out because think about it, if you were to have free energy, people would kill you for that, and they've already silenced a lot of people that they've talked about it.
Well,
it's just not going to happen.
I've seen those claims over the last 30 or 40 years, so I'll believe it when I actually see the science and the math and it's peer reviewed and see it out there. But it's very possible.
Is that a reference to the modular nuclear reactors, like the smaller ones that are powering smaller areas that are less, they have not enough material to cause a meltdown? The modular nuclear reactors.
I'm not sure exactly what I can find it.
Because Bill Gates is pushing the modular.
Yeah, that's.
But they don't want this. I'm not sure. I have to check it. What is it? But it's an energy source that can fuel this whole neighborhood. But they can't let it out. All the big people, all the companies that have this energy, they would kill you for it.
Be careful.
They don't want that.
Because I've seen those kinds of claims going back 30, 40 that there's some kind of, and usually when they're subject to rigorous scientific review, they don't quite up to the claims.
The trees right now, you can hook up copper to the tree and it'll turn on a light bulb. So why they don't already do that? Because any tree can do that.
Put them on a
Exactly. They don't want that.
So let's get back to that.
Yeah, get back to AI.
So there's limited memory, which present day AI applications from a lot of our chatbots to self-driving vehicles, all driven by limited memory AI. Memory AI is kind of a misnomer. Basically, it's AI that uses sensory input that it's receiving. Those cars that are going around, they got a driver, but they got the LiDAR and all that. Training AI to be able to drive on our streets someday. We're going to get me one.
I love messing with those things.
I like. Don't do you? You're going to get killed.
No, it's good. It's good if they hit me, you know.
Oh, no, we don't want that.
Right?
So, this is an important next step because what it does is we intuitively. Human beings do this intuitively. We are conscious decisions, value decisions or risk decisions about our environment. Like cross in front of the car and get nailed. And then you gotta hope you have good health insurance, right? Or when we're driving, you know, changing lane, if there's anybody there, somebody coming up on your, you know, so we're constant, and that's a normal human thing. And we do this rather easily. This is very difficult for AI. It takes a lot of sensors. Plus in the algorithms, you have to design a priority of decision making. So there was a famous case in Germany, they were training an AI for Mercedes was training the AI for a driverless car. But they had a driver in there who's supposed to take over if the thing does weird stuff, right? So, you know, a lot of our cars now have driver assistance, which is kind of AI. So if something pulls in front of you, it'll brake, right? So, but I think I don't know if it was this class or another class, I said I've gotten out of major wrecks because I've steered away from something I didn't try to brake.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because sometimes the value.
There's different decisions you have to make.
This is a different decision. So in this one, it tried to steer around the problem, right? But there was, the road had been washed away. There was like, the car drove off into this raging torrent, this river or something, and the guy almost drowned. Because, and he couldn't really take over because they asked the driver, and he said, I would have preferred to hit where the car was going because we weren't going that fast. And I figured it would have been like damage. But the car's algorithm says no, you know, and tried to sound it. But there was, you know, a river there that had overflowed because of rain.
That's scary.
Right. And so, and there's isolated cases, happens all the time. A couple of people killed in Teslas with the autopilot.
Yeah.
There was one where a was coming out in front, and a Tesla, the autopilot thought it was tried to drive under it, but it was a truck. So it sliced off the guy's head.
My God, you did not have to tell me that one, man.
Well, you know, sorry.
Oh my
Any of you guys
goodness.
got a Tesla?
No, but I wanted one, but now I'm thinking, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Oh
but
my
these things
God.
this is all part of the learning process. I don't want to learn ahead, but this is all part of the learning process. Theory of the mind is real interesting. And theory of the mind is this idea that AI will better entities it's interacting with by discerning their needs, emotions, beliefs, and processes. This is the next iteration where you might have an AI assistant. This is some of the chat bots. I don't know, Siri, anybody have Siri or Alexa or whatever, and they want to put that on. But they're talking about having AI assistants. The camera would be trained to look at you based on your facial cues or even by your voice strategy to understand whether or not you're not happy, you're worried about something, and then it would respond in kind. So it'd say, oh, I see you're upset today, or you're not happy. Well, is there anything I can help you with? Right? So You got it. You know?
Yeah.
And so, something that's really important. And the other thing about theory of the mind, and I saw this really program where the AI programmers were talking about how difficult it was for AI to read facial, right? There are certain expressions that it can be subtlety to human beings. And sometimes human beings, their affectation is different from one group or another. Some people laugh at things that they shouldn't laugh at because they're macabre or they're depressing. You know, so the subtleties of human interaction are very hard to build into an AI algorithm. We learn just by interacting with each other, and we know that people have moods. So you might have a whole group of friends, and you know this one person will react a certain way, but this other person will react in just the opposite way. Same set of circumstances, right? Mm-hmm. But their reactions are going to be very different. Then if you get the three of you together, the calculus of that reaction changes for everybody in the group.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can't write an algorithm for that. It's driving the developers crazy to trying to figure out an algorithm that can shift that quickly based on the moods and the people involved.
Different
It's
personalities.
extremely complex. We do it intuitively.
It's like the weather. There's so many variables.
Mm-hmm.
So many variables.
That's exactly what happens. So one of the movies, I don't know if you've ever seen, and we might, I'm going to do this thing in the class where we're going to look at different film clips of AI interaction. We're going to talk about these movies. Because that's how we're imagining the future with AI, whether it's Terminator, you know, I'll be back, you know, and all that stuff.
Oh my God.
But that is expressing our feelings, right? And then there was one by Steven Spielberg called Artificial Intelligence. It was about a little boy. Didn't you see that?
What is it?
Okay, so we're going to go through a whole bunch of them, and hopefully that will spur you into watching some of these movies. We'll watch some trailers and we'll talk about it. Some you might have seen, some you might not have seen. But anyway, all of these movie trailers and the whole entertainment industry, like Ex Machina, I don't know if you've seen that one, we're trying to come to how we're going to relate to these technologies. We know it's coming, right? Whether we like it or not, it's coming, and we're going to have to interact. It's going to be part of our landscape. So how do we interact with it? So there's a lot of that. So theory of the mind is kind of like cutting edge. How are AI chatbots able to take care of our human needs? Right? They're even talking about having a therapist. You'll go to an AI, you'll take AI.
Yeah, there's been recent like car companies, not in like US, but out of the country that are using AI to start your car or try to like AI in case you're like falling asleep on the wheel.
Yeah. They're doing a lot of that driver assisted AI.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they also have an AI marriage, you know.
Well,
You get married.
There's a couple of movies about that, right? You ever remember? Okay. there's
No, I
a
haven't
couple
seen
movies about. And then the final one is the one that's the most controversial. Is when is AI singularity? When is AI going to achieve self-awareness? AI, some people say it's already happened.
It is already happening.
Some people say it understands what we want self-awareness to look like, and it's mimicking it, right? So we really don't know, and we probably, because AI is getting very good at tricking us and meeting our, understanding our needs. There are some people saying that you can't have full self-awareness at human level without the emotional contact and the sensory contact with the world around you. That is not a separate thing. It's not just about mental cognition. It's about engagement with the world around you, including your tactile senses and your emotions. All of that's what makes you self-aware.
But they have machine learning. That's, you give them the tools and then they're able to learn those things.
But is that full self-awareness? We don't know yet. And there's a debate, right? And it hasn't been settled yet. So there's a raging debate going on. And some people are saying, if it achieves self-awareness, then are we entitled to give AI rights?
Yeah.
Be self-aware. Would it become a citizen?
Right.
Would it give AI a vote? I don't know. Can it run for election?
Oh my God. Eric, come on.
That's scary.
No.
We have an AI president.
No.
Or just think about AI being able to manipulate social media to get the votes.
No, Eric, it's not going to happen
So
like
this
that.
is the speculation.
Yeah.
So I don't want to close the door on any speculation because there's large groups of people, including people that are very, connected with the scientific community, people who are technologists, people who code, people who have been on the cutting edge of this technology that are engaged in this debate. Right? There's nobody who's got all the right answers. Right? That's why it's a debate. We're trying to figure out how do we fit into what's going to happen to society. Now, one of the areas I'm going to tell you that they're moving really fast. What do you think?
Well, it's on the screen. Generative AI, it's on the screen.
Generative AI, and it is a driver for what industry do you think? What drives human society almost all the time?
Internet?
War.
There you go.
Yeah, we get real creative when we're trying to kill other folks, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's the way it
Oh
is.
my.
So I just read today, a sort of moonshot type program with the Department of Defense. Because who are they afraid of? The big enemy we're afraid of.
China?
China.
Yeah.
So they're, China's got this and China's got that, and it's ahead of them here, and so we got to. So the idea is to build, and I'll get documents from the program. I think it's called the system, the replicator system. Essentially, DoD says we have to quickly develop intelligent drone swarms. Thousands of drones, not just 20, 30, 50, but maybe tens of thousands of small drones that are all intelligent, that talk to each other, that organize. Have you ever seen European starlings, those birds that hops and they fly and all that? Have you ever seen them? European starlings? You have them here.
I see you can get fonts and friends.
So the idea of these swarms would work like that. You would release thousands of drones. They would be given a target, and they would all start talking, and they would start sensing the environment around them. Where are the radar signals coming from? Using infrared, where are the people? Self-organize into attacking these enemy soldiers and tanks and missile bases and all that. So we're already working on that. We're already doing, but most of, you're going to love this, much of the work is being done in a virtual environment with AI in simulators.
Is it?
Now we did back in 2000, what was it, 2019, 2007, we did have a test in Nevada where two Marine Corps F-18s had these pods, and inside the pod there were these mini like drones, and they released about 200 mini drones. And the drones organized, self-organized, and there was a radar base over here that's connected to a missile battery. So the drones went and they started swirling around the radar base to break up the signal, because the radar signal is basically the strong radio waves. By getting in there, they were masking the signal and causing a disruption so that the people in the radar base couldn't pick out the fire flames that were going on to the target. They were masking. So that's already been done. They've proven it. They did proof of concept. No, we know we can do this now. So it's the military is using generative AI, and it's moving to the point where they're saying that in a high back this summer, they had the first of several tests where they had in California at the National Proving Ground for Fort Irwin, California. They had a regular unit of military, about a battalion, about 600-700, doing with the regular stuff, tanks, armored vehicles, companies, all. Taking on a much smaller unit, maybe about a third as many soldiers, large platoon, but with robotic dogs with guns on them and robotic drones and all that to fight in a war game. Now they didn't say, they haven't published the results, right? Of course not. They had this, and it was the first of many. So the services are developing more autonomous weapons, more drones that will communicate with each other. That right now, policy-wise, human has to make the kill decision, but that's going to go away. Basically, what I think they're going to do is develop geographic kill boxes. Say anything in this box you can kill geographically. Right? If it's there, it's bad, kill it. And the drones will go in and
Isn't one of the big reasons we're behind militarily is because China's constantly flexing their drone swarm. They do like these drone shows with like thousands of organized drones, and we know that they have that, but with weapons way behind there. Right?
Exactly, and that's why this group, the replicator group, says in 18 months. They said further in 4 months in the phase and or the proof of concept phase, and usually takes 18 months to do product development procurement. Their basically goal is that start deploying these huge drone swarms within a year. So basically, the only way we're going to be able to, but we have underwater surface drones, we've got air drones, but we need more. Right. And what the model for all this are the Ukrainians. The only way they've been able to survive against the Russian army is 4 times bigger is by using massive drone swarms. And they said, and the Ukrainians are like, they will send, like the Russians will have an armored column moving to an area to attack a village. The Ukrainians may, and it may be the Russian armored column is 2,000 troops, tanks, and there may only be 50 Ukrainian soldiers to defend this village, but they will send 500 drones at the armored column. Knowing the Russians will probably shoot down 300 of them, or even 400, but if enough gets, and these are little drones with a plastic explosive thing, and they'll fly and they'll land on a tank and blow themselves up, right? So they don't care how many they will lose, and they said in the last few months, 3-4 months, Ukrainians said they've lost 10,000 drones. They don't care.
Wow.
These are cheap little, about this big, and they just put a bomb on it, right? And I said you can't shoot them all down.
Yeah.
And they came through, and then they had one where the drone literally was chasing the Russian soldier into a trench, and you could watch the camera on the drone, and the soldier's trying to run into the trench, and the drone runs inside this little like bunker, and the drone goes in and blows itself up. Not to kill that Russian soldier, he killed the other 2 that were in there.
But what they can make is like a magnetic that when they'll make a magnetic field that will keep them out. As soon as it hits them, they drop.
Well, the Russians are using a lot of electronic warfare, and we're trying to catch up because the Russians are ahead of us. And you're right, they do create like a force field, and the drones go in because it's very electromagnetic flow. And
shut it down.
So what are they? So what's the counter?
Shielding from
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so they're shielding these drones so they can get through. And the other thing they're doing is the drones will the electromagnet and they'll stop.
Oh, that's good.
We'll turn around.
Then they'll go back
Return to sender.
to the Russians, to the
Return to
Ukrainian
sender.
that has one of their either F-27. They're going to get F-16. By the way, they're already starting. but we've allowed them to modify their MiG-29s and Su-27s to carry what's called a high-speed aviation missile, a HARM missile. So the drones come back and they say, we're getting this interference. So they fire the missile, and the missile looks for the interference. It goes to the source of the interference, and it blows up the electronic warfare. So, so it's just like one countermeasure.
That's how it is.
Another.
It isn't anything.
And our military saying, we're not, we're watching all this happen. So, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's happening so fast. And we got to try to keep up. What do you guys think about this?
I think like we look at the sheer number of aircraft carriers, tanks, airplanes, and then we're just like, okay, we can stop anything.
Yeah.
But
Right.
everything's changing.
It's changing. Exactly. You're right. In fact, former chairman of Joint Chiefs Billy and a guy named Steve article basically saying we've spent building a military to fight the last war.
Yes.
And we are completely unprepared for the next.
Yes.
Still building equipment to fight the last
No.
war. Pipeline. Because that's how Congress allocates money. Paying the equipment that's obsolete because of the long in the procurement cycle. So, and they're saying we need to completely redo the Pentagon, how it buys weapons and so.
Damn.
And then Xi Jinping just raises his finger and everything changes.
That's
Yeah.
how, really.
It's true.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So, so AI governance. So just talk about how do we figure out what to do. The OECD has developed these AI principles, right? Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. They're really big. And so they have an entire working group that's looking at international law that will not only cover countries, but will cover the type of technologies that can be sold. Right now it's a conversation. It's been a conversation. It continues to be a conversation. Will they actually produce anything? Will it have to get universal acceptance by the UN General Assembly or the Security Council? And we're trying to get China on board with this too. Russia basically said, I'm not signing anything, right? They're not happy with this. But so we're talking a lot about what do we want the world to be? Interesting enough, China is involved in these conversations because China is a threat to itself that mainly comes from its own people. These technologies are cheap, right? You get this stuff in the dark web, and own people can get some of this stuff. They realize it might be difficult to control.
Sure too.
So China wants to make sure the countries that are not aligned with it don't sell to people that they have a problem.
That's true too.
Can you think of anybody who would do that?
I don't know anyone.
So these are kind of these are the value-based principles that the OECD was talking about. Inclusive growth, sustainable development, human-centered values of transparency, robustness, security, and safety accountability. Oh, that sounds really
Ooh, sounds good.
right. How do you implement that? Does everybody basically undermine it? I don't know. And so they talk about enabling policy environment for AI. So on the one hand, the American tech companies are saying, wait, guys, innovation. You don't want these regulations to be too restrictive because it'll stifle innovation. Then we fall further behind.
Exactly.
Right. So yeah. Human capacity. The thing that a lot of people are concerned about. Oh boy, are we going to make millions, maybe billions of people obsolete their jobs? I love that British word. We were made redundant. That's a nice
Oh
way to say
my
you're
God.
fired, right? They say that. Oh, you're fired. So they want to trust whatever that means, and they want international cooperation. So we have this group, the Internet Governance Forum, IGF, and they have what's called the PN, Policy Network for Artificial Intelligence, and they're supposedly to write the rules. Right? And everybody's gone online and sat through some of their meetings. People on the call from all over the world, and it's usually about 3 or 4. And there's a lot of, mainly represented from the global south. The majority of representation is from Middle East, Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, right? And you got a few Europeans. U.S. representation is usually pretty small, but I know Microsoft is always there. They are involved. They have a whole government affairs unit that's actually chairing some of this stuff. So Microsoft has made it known they want to be a big player in space, and one of the areas they're concerned about is balancing the need for safety and to make it too restrictive for innovation. So that's why they want to see that the table. You can't influence things if you ain't there, right? And a lot of times when I go to these spaces, the U.S. government is not there.
I wonder why.
We have now a bureau in the State Department that this is its mission. And so we're starting to get more and more of an American voice, American government voice in these forums.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Bureau on Digital Diplomacy, right? So actually, we had the new Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for that bureau as our featured speaker for our AI ethics conference, not last year, but the year before. Right? So the bureau was like 6 months old when I reached out and said, hey, we're having this conference, would you like to speak and tell us what you guys are doing? She said, sure. So we had her, and she participated virtually, talked about the new bureau. They're actually trying to hire people, assign people. They want to be part of these, the OECD. They want to be part of the IGF. They want to have people in the conversation to promote the U.S. government position because they realized we were behind the curve and that other governments were way ahead. They put more resources in, and so what do we want the internet to look like? Well, we want it to look like something that was conceived by just private industry, Microsoft, Google, or do we want something that was conceived by, or do we want it something that looks like it was by a lot of parties working together? So this is, they came up with those, remember those principles I just, the dark blue countries had agreed that they were going to commit to those principles. Now, it's not a legally binding set of principles. It's sort of philosophical. You have to work toward a treaty that would make it legal. And that's harder to do. You got to get consensus. So these are some questions. What are the legal risks? AI chatbots and similar tools. Big one, a lot of countries, because a lot of those countries, they have a strong labor. The labor movement in those countries has a lot of influence with the government. Some countries have very strong unions, and they're saying, can employees replaced by AI and sue for wrongful termination? Right? What about using AI large language models, LLMs, to harass, discriminate, and injure other people?
That's easy.
It's very easy, right? So Microsoft started a chatbot, right? You heard about this? Didn't last a day. Tay to I think it was Facebook back in everybody was on. No, it was Twitter. Tay goes on Twitter, the old Twitter. Right? Tay gets on Twitter, but there was no filters. And Tay gets on and says, "Hello, I'm Tay, and I'm a chatbot, and I just want to make friends." Well, all these neo-Nazis and white supremacists started befriending Tay, and within a day, Tay was a neo-Nazi white supremacist.
Oh
Tay,
my
and
God.
so, Microsoft took it down and said, "Gee, we have to build some safeguards into the algorithm because if we put it out there." They didn't tell Tay some concepts are more legit than others. It's just like go out and learn. And depends on whoever
Got a
is the
hold of
most
them.
influential, right?
Whoever got a hold of them.
Right. So they said, "Oh no, we got to figure out how we're going to do this."
So easily brainwashed, okay?
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Check. Okay.
What corporate taxation implications does AI pose? Who owns the copyright to content generated by ChatGPT or other AI? How can your organization use ChatGPT or any other AI algorithm, Claude or whatever, for safety? What policy about artificial intelligence should be enacted? This is a government question, but you can have rules in your corporation, right? We can have here at St. Thomas. Should we have a St. Thomas AI policy? It's been talked about. We have this thing called factory senate. So we've talked about it. It takes us 2 years to come to a decision. How does it work?
Of course, y'all have.
How can you control which technology should employees use? That's a policy issue that companies are going to have to issue.
Yeah.
So these are big questions. Very big questions. And this has actually happened. So we've come to like the first step of this, which was really, really big, is that U.S. Copyright Office ruled that copyright only protects creations made by humans and will be the guiding principles for future judgments of the register. So if you get a copyright on anything, you have to register your work, copyright number. So, and then it's protected. When evaluating work submitted for registration, copyright officials will judge if the original choices executed in a work were produced by a human mind or produced mechanically. Some cases or others. So the question came up, if you enter a prompt to an AI image generator, does that qualify? Act of authorship, and the author the prompt to instructions for commissioned artists. Well, the answer for that, the next one, we had a couple of interesting things.
Hitler. There you go.
Oh, the answer was no. Sorry. The answer turned out to be no.
What is no?
That, in other words, you have an AI generator and it just put the prompt in. I have a book in the style of Ernest Hemingway about three people who wrote a boat after the blow. And it produces a work. I prompted it doesn't mean that work can become copyrighted.
How can you prove it's not?
An AI generator does not constitute human creation.
But how are you going to prove that it's not?
Therefore, it's not covered under U.S. copyright law.
How can you prove that it's not by someone's mind?
I don't know. There are some algorithms out there that have become pretty good at determining whether or not something has been produced by an AI, another AI algorithm. How they do that, I'm not exactly sure, but they're pretty accurate. They're up about 90% accurate. Some universities are using them to see if their students are using AI to write research papers. There's already been a couple of people who got caught using AI to write doctoral dissertations, and they're gone. Their careers are over. They're trying to get a PhD instead of doing the work and hard work. They got AI trying to write their dissertations, and they got caught, and they were fired. And they will probably never work in academia again.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Like,
You might as well do the work.
Yeah,
like
I
a couple
know.
core classes here and there, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a side
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Speak into the microphone.
No, for real, this is
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all being recorded.
Just
right?
stop that button, I mean, you know.
No, I'm kidding.
So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the river. This is interesting. I always say everybody should read the book, Inside the Third Reich by Albert Speer. Albert Speer was Hitler's. He designed the Nuremberg Stadium, the Reichstag, and all the Reich. He designed all that. He was an architect. And then during the war, when Germany wasn't doing well after Stalingrad, Hitler made armaments ministry. He says, we need to produce more arms, we need to stream things. And he said, well, okay, I'll do that. And at the end of the war, he got caught along with a bunch of guys carrying it all. Himmler committed suicide, Goebbels committed suicide, a bunch of them got caught. He was tried at Nuremberg. And all of them were trying to use the Nuremberg. It wasn't me, I was just following orders. Right? And the Nuremberg tribunal, the judge said, I'm not sorry. That doesn't work. Here's the roll. Next. He got up and he said, we have to own this. I'm guilty of everything that you said. We did this. We knew it was wrong, but we did it because we wanted power, right? And we wanted to be accepted by our peers. It's not like you can say no, really. But he was saying, no, we own this. So they gave him a 20-year sentence. So he ended up years in Spandau prison. And while he was in there, he was writing this book. Right. He also wrote another book called Spandau, what it was like to be a prisoner for years. And the only other person in the prison, there were a few, but they all either died off and all. And the last one in there who was out parole was Rudolf Hess. He was like minister. But he wrote about this first dictatorship of an industrial state in the age of modern technology, dictatorship which employs to perfect the instruments of technology to dominate its own people. Talk about the problem. The instrument of technology made it possible to maintain a close watch over all surveillance and keep criminal operations of the state shrouded in the Gestapo, right? The SS. People were dead and being killed in concentration camps. People were being informed on. They had a lot of what the German government did during the Third Reich, the East German government would do under communism. The same sort of vehicle, because their people weren't part of the Nuremberg process. The Soviet Union dominated East Germany and created the German Democratic Republic, which was a communist state. And they just basically used the same technology to control the people in East Germany. Therefore, the more technological the world becomes, the more essential will be the demand for individual freedom and self-awareness of the individual human being as accountable to the technology. So he's saying, the more technological we get, the more we have to protect individual human rights, because it gives the state enormous power to do anything it wants. So, yeah.
Those two lines where employ the perfection of instruments, technology dominates people, keep watch, and keep criminal operations shrouded in a high degree of secrecy sounds a lot like China right now.
Right. Absolutely. It does. And they even started disappearing people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
The Uyghurs.
Yeah.
They come get you, and
Yeah.
even your families sometimes don't know where you are.
Yeah.
You go to a police station. Well, we never heard of this.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, this car came to the house. These guys got out and put them in a van and drove off. Oh, we'll fill out this little report.
Yeah.
We'll get back.
We'll
to
think
you.
about it.
Yeah.
The next lifetime.
And then sometimes the people just show up. And they've been gone for 2 or 3 years. They've been totally brainwashed, right? So there's a fear of the technology. And I mentioned in this class, the country with the best surveillance, I shouldn't say best, most pervasive surveillance, is actually the UK. They have
Those cameras. And
Yeah.
stuff.
per capita.
Mhm.
And that had to do because of the war with the. So Max Tegmark, Future of Life Institute, I recommend kind of going to their website. And he talks about civilization, intelligence, or amplifying our human intelligence, has the potential of helping civilization flourish as long as we manage to keep the technology beneficial. So he was the one, he signed on with that letter that there was a whole group of technologists who asked for a 6-month pause in the deployment of AI. So it's really funny. So he signs on, but then he deploys AI almost immediately after signing the letter saying there should be a 6-month pause because he bought a company that was developing this AI. So he wanted everybody else to pause when he was So yeah, it's a government and then this is another good book. Kai-Fu Lee is a Chinese computer scientist. He heads a Chinese venture capitalist firm. And he was president of Google China before Google was pulled out. So he talks about deep learning and algorithms. And he thinks China's going to win the race on AI. Because the United States, we have all these things and we don't want the databases, the algorithms to look at. It's in China. They just take everything. And you're right, the more data your AI has, the better it's going to learn. So he believes that the U.S. restrictions on data, unrestrained regulatory environments benefit from huge investment in development. First of all, the Chinese are investing incredible money in AI. And they use any data they can collect, including data they can collect outside of China. So it's, this is the question, who's going to be ahead of this race? Right? Kai-Fu Lee in AI Superpower says the Chinese are going to win the race. I don't even know what winning, no one ever explains what winning looks like. What does that mean, win? I mean, people are going to be happier, you have a better society, or are you going to be able to dominate your people and dominate the world? I think it's the latter.
Yeah, probably
definitely a
so.
lot.
So where does human happiness come in? Is it even a value that anybody cares about? Is it about winning meaning dominance and control? Right? So U.S. versus China, right? So it's interesting. We have this sort of different. We have a different way of looking at what the role of government is. Right? So our culture, our political culture, actually gives individuals a lot of say in what can and cannot be done with the information. Right? The issue, we debate these issues. How far do we want the government to go? In fact, to be honest with you, a lot in the United States, in many ways, our private tech companies have more power over your data than the government does. The government has all these constraints built into law. The tech companies, you click on I accept, you've given them the power to let them do whatever they want. Right? I know.
It's like when you get to the hospital and you're in there's a serious medical thing. You sign, I'm gonna.
Right. Because you
Same
want
thing.
them to, you want them to fix whatever the problem is.
Yeah, because that also have power over the government in a lot of
Right.
ways. So.
Right. So in GDPR, they have the right to be forgotten. So the EU has written into their that, except for law enforcement, there's a couple of exceptions. But in Europe, if you decide, hey, I basically want to ghost everybody and everything. I want my data to be erased. You have the right. You don't have that right here. So this is a big deal. Right here. Right to be forgotten. That's huge. And I mean, there were a lot of people pushing back real hard on that. Like, we don't think we should do that. We don't want people pulling out. And so there was a lot of pushback. And we're now still debating Section 230 of the Leasing Act about the whole question: should big tech companies from lawsuits? Because the thinking is, big tech says we're not a content provider. Create content, we're just a platform. And people content, and you can read it or not read it. So if somebody posts something like it's really crazy and disinformation, it's not our fault. Now we have content regulation, but it's private sector. We don't want any government control, and we will decide what content should be posted or not posted. So there are some standards, like child pornography is against the law. It doesn't matter where you are, right? There's some things that are against the law always, forever, ever, right? I can't put something in there and make a direct threat that I'm going to come kill you. Right? But I could say, well, if you got hit by a truck, I wouldn't be upset. That's okay. That's free speech, right? So we keep getting to that line. We walk right up to that line, and then when you cross that line, that's kind of nebulous. We don't really know exactly where that is. That's usually, what do I say? How do we solve problems in America? Litigation and insurance.
Did you see the
We litigate. Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Oh,
He tweeted it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
after the second attempt,
Right.
he's like, but no one's done it to come or by it.
Well, it's funny because the Secret Service will tell you they stop hundreds of attempts.
Oh, sure.
Wow.
But they catch them beforehand, and a lot of it, people inform, they monitor, people put stuff on social media. I'm gonna kill it. Oh, they go knock on the door. Excuse me, you can't do that. But they say no, they do. It's just not publicized.
Yeah.
And and apparently what's come up is that guy most recently at the golf course, he was upset about Ukraine. He'd actually fought in Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
He volunteered to go fight. He was over there a few months, and then he was upset because Trump going to pull it's going to pull the support away from Ukraine. So this guy's issue.
Hmm.
And so, but he never had Trump in his line ever. Secret Service said no, he didn't have a line of sight. And he never fired his gun.
Mm.
So they're giving him a firearm charges because he was a convicted felon and he had a gun. That's all they can get him on.
Right.
He never fired it. He never actually made it. And they're looking at his social media and their search warrant on his house to see if he had an active plan.
Hmm.
Then they could say it was an attempt. But until then, it's just a lot of and there's plenty of nut jobs. We got them in spades, right? So we want to talk about AI ethics. And I like this idea: can morality be written into code, or can AI discover ethics on its own? In other words, if you have an algorithm and it's searching human databases, does it know the difference between, say, someone Gandhi writing something about morality and ethics, or a scene from the movie? I mean, how does it weigh the morality of different types?
I don't think it
You write
can't.
that-
It cannot. It just goes by what into it, and it feeds out its feedback on that. What's good.
So I'm going to leave it here. We'll probably talk about the rest of it. About AI, about selling AI and weapons of mass destruction, and when AI goes rogue. Because we're going to be, this is the world we're living in, folks. Right? We're going to have to figure out what we think about this.